There's something about a cottage, especially one surrounded by dunes and wind and memory, that invites you to try things you haven't done before. To create something new, not for perfection, not for Pinterest, but for the simple joy of making. Today I took a tired fixture above my mother-in-law's cottage table and gave it a much-needed upgrade with items I found in nature, a couple of pieces of hardware from a building store, and a string of twinkle lights for under $80. This is a story about light, but not just the fixture I made from grapevines and fallen branches. It's about the quiet kind of light you discover when you follow a hunch, even if you've never done it before. So come with me into the woods, to the front porch, to the table we gather around. Let's build something and maybe find a bit of ourselves in the process. I am at our family's cottage in Ontario, and as a fun project, my mother-in-law has this lovely light idea that she wants to put up in her dining room, and so we're going to make it today. Here on the property, there are all sorts of loose branches and grapevines that we're going to use to create this chandelier that goes above the dining table. I'm excited. I've never done this before. I have no promises on how it's going to turn out, but I did go to Canadian Tire and got everything I need to make it a possibility. So let's see how this turns out. I didn't start with a plan. I started with a walk. Out here, the grapevines climb anything that'll hold them. They wind up trees, crawl along fences, twist themselves into shapes they need to survive. I pulled them gently from the branches, detangling them like hair, feeling their strength and their flexibility. They were wild and winding and full of a story of perseverance. There's something deeply grounding about using what's already around you, trusting that the raw materials you need are already there, just waiting to be noticed. No online order, no instructions, just you, your hands, and a willingness to see beauty where others see debris. That's the first step in any creative act. Not the blueprint, not the vision board, the noticing, the curiosity, that pull in your gut that says, let's see what this could become. So I walked, and I gathered, and I trusted that the shape would come later. I began forming the first base, a loop, nothing fancy, nothing final, just the beginning of something. The vines, still pliable, wove together naturally, almost like they remembered how to hold each other. I wasn't measuring, I wasn't rushing, I was following, letting the material speak first. There's a certain kind of magic in letting yourself start without a grand plan. Not needing to justify the time or the effort to anyone, not even yourself. You begin because you want to see what happens. That's it. That's enough. The loop felt like a beginning, and gradually it began to grow. You're watching this and thinking, I could never make something like that. I want to stop you there, because this wasn't about talent or training or vision. It was just about permission. Permission to follow an idea, permission to try something unfamiliar, permission to trust your hands. Creative confidence isn't about being sure. It's about being curious. You don't have to know what it will look like. You don't have to have a reason. You just have to begin and then begin again. The theme in all of my videos these days, showing up time and time over. And then I paused, because sometimes the most powerful part about creating is the part where you walk away, where you let your project breathe, where you sit with the half-finished thing and let it speak to you in its current form. That evening, after the sun had gone, I stepped inside and turned on the lights, and something happened. That simple wreath made from vines that had been in tangled trees just hours before now glowed softly in the dark. It cast shadows and warmth as if it was always meant to be this way. There's a kind of peace that comes from seeing something you've made come alive at night. It's not about brightness, it's about presence, the way a warm light pulls people closer, the way it fills the space without taking it over. Sometimes we think creativity has to be big to be worthy, that unless it changes everything, it doesn't count. But this soft, glowy thing was enough, more than enough. Okay, so yesterday I got it to this point, and what I found is that this is just a little bit tidier than we were going for. I want to add a little bit of whimsy. That's the word my mother-in-law used. And I feel like some looser twigs integrated into this would be really nice. I also really want to edit what's happening up here. I would love if these tension cables that hold it straight could be integrated into the pendant itself, and that way it just looks like it's levitating above the table versus now it's just kind of got a lot going on. So if I can shorten these bottom suspension cables and then integrate this into the top of it so that the whole pendant itself is just hanging from this one tension cable up here, I think that would be the best way forward. So it's kind of a 3 steps forward, 2 steps back situation, but I think the end result is going to be really nice because by making it a little bit larger, I can spread the bulbs out a little bit, and I feel like that's going to be a much more cohesive look to the vision that we had from the start. The next morning, I looked at what I'd made and felt ready to add more. Not because it wasn't good enough, but because I was curious. Because it wanted to grow. Because there's something about sleeping on an idea that changes how you see it the next day. Creative growth doesn't always look like a reinvention. Sometimes it looks like an elaboration. Like adding a layer, like deepening what you've already begun. So I wandered again. This time I looked for contrast, for texture, for whimsy. I found branches covered in pale lichen, stiff and spindly with jagged ends and quiet character. A grapevine light in a lakeside cottage. A small thing, but not really, because small things done with intention ripple. They spark ideas in others. They remind us that we can begin again. They offer a kind of proof that joy doesn't always come from achievement. Sometimes it comes from being here, fully, with what's in front of you. And if you've been waiting for the right moment to try something new or different or strange, this is your sign. Begin with what's around you. Begin with what you already have. Begin without knowing how it ends. Let it take shape. Let it light the room. And let it light you up a little bit too. The tension between the materials, soft and structured, flowing and firm, gave the piece life. It mirrored something I feel all the time in design, that good things come from contrast, that our softest moments often need structure to hold them. I worked slowly, no rush, no deadline, just the rhythm of hands moving, mind easing, ideas unfolding. This kind of making from nature with nature asks nothing but presence. You don't force the material, you don't fight it, you just listen and respond. I found myself entering that familiar state, and I'm designing space for a client or rearranging a room just because the mood shifted. It's not about results, it's about resonance. Creative confidence doesn't come from finishing things, it comes from showing up to begin, again and again without knowing what the ending looks like. I think that's the secret, if there is one, to fall in love with the process, to let yourself be changed by it. Where the grapevines had been loose and cooperative, these branches demanded precision, placement, and intention. I began building them into the piece, not around the lights, but under them, like a nest, a resting place, a soft cradle for the twinkle. By the time the new branches were woven in and the spiral grapevine ends tucked carefully around them, I stepped back and finally saw it. Not a DIY project, not a task completed, but something alive. It wasn't symmetrical, it didn't follow any trend, it would never show up in a catalog, but it felt honest, joyful, exactly what it was meant to be. This light, born from found things and followed whims, now hangs above the table where we gather, where we talk and play cards and share meals and stay up too late. It doesn't command the room, it just holds it.